Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to 90 Day Fiancé latest news updates. The drama on 90 Day Fiancé reaches a boiling point as Manon makes the most emotional and shocking decision of her journey so far, leaving Anthony and returning to her parents' home. What began as a love story filled with hope, cultural excitement, and future dreams has now unraveled into confusion, heartbreak, and unanswered questions. In this exclusive moment, viewers witness not just a breakup, but the emotional collapse of a relationship that struggled under pressure from the very beginning. Manon and Anthony's relationship has never been smooth sailing. From the early episodes, fans noticed the tension simmering beneath the surface. Cultural differences, communication struggles, and conflicting expectations slowly chipped away at their connection. While both claimed to love each other deeply, their interpretations of love often clashed. Anthony believed stability and structure were enough to prove his commitment, while Manon needed emotional reassurance, understanding, and space to feel safe in a foreign environment. Over time, those unmet needs turned into resentment. As the cameras roll in this exclusive clip, Manon appears visibly drained. Her voice trembles, her eyes reveal exhaustion, and her posture reflects someone who has been carrying emotional weight for far too long. She explains that the arguments have become constant, the misunderstandings endless, and the emotional distance impossible to ignore. What hurts her the most is not just the fighting, but the feeling that Anthony no longer truly listens to her. Anthony, on the other hand, seems blindsided. He insists he has tried his best and struggles to understand why Manon feels so disconnected. In his mind, he has provided support, a home, and a future plan. But Manon's pain goes deeper than logistics. She feels emotionally isolated, trapped between wanting to make the relationship work and needing to protect her own mental health. The tension in the room is thick, and every pause in their conversation feels heavier than words. When Manon finally says she is leaving to stay with her parents, the moment feels irreversible. This is not a threat or a temporary cooling-off statement. This is a decision made after weeks, perhaps months, of internal struggle. She explains that being with her parents is the only place where she can breathe, think clearly, and reconnect with herself. For Manon, this move is about survival, not punishment. Anthony reacts with a mix of frustration, disbelief, and fear. He questions whether leaving will solve anything or simply push them further apart. His voice rises, not out of anger alone, but out of desperation. He worries that this separation could become permanent, that once Manon leaves, she may never come back. Viewers can see the vulnerability in his reaction, even as his words fail to bridge the emotional gap between them. This moment highlights one of the most painful realities of 90-day fiancé relationships, the clash between love and reality. Many couples enter the process believing love alone can overcome distance, culture, and sacrifice. But Manon and Anthony's situation shows that love without emotional alignment can slowly turn into emotional exhaustion. No matter how strong the initial connection is, unresolved issues will eventually demand attention. Fans have taken to social media almost immediately, with reactions pouring in from every side. Some viewers applaud Manon for choosing herself and prioritizing her emotional well-being. They argue that staying in an unhappy relationship out of obligation only leads to deeper pain. Others sympathize with Anthony, believing he was genuinely trying and deserved clearer communication earlier in the relationship. The fan base is sharply divided, proving just how emotionally invested viewers have become in this couple's journey. What makes this moment especially powerful is how real it feels. There is no dramatic music cue or exaggerated confrontation, just two people facing the painful consequences of emotional disconnect. Manon's decision reflects a growing trend on the show where cast members are choosing self-respect over appearances. In previous seasons, many participants stayed in failing relationships due to pressure from visas, families, or public expectations. Manon's choice signals a shift toward emotional honesty. Even when it hurts, she packs her belongings. The silence between them says more than words ever could. Anthony watches, uncertain whether to help or step aside. Every item Manon places into her bag feels symbolic of the memories they built together, and the ones they may never have. When she finally walks out the door, it is not just a physical exit, but an emotional one that leaves Anthony alone with his thoughts and regrets. The exclusive clip ends without resolution, leaving viewers with haunting questions. Is this separation temporary, or the beginning of the end? Will time apart help them understand each other better, or confirm that their relationship has run its course? And most importantly, can love survive when emotional needs remain unmet? 90 Day Fiancé has always thrived on moments like this, raw, uncomfortable, and deeply human. Manon leaving Anthony is not just another dramatic twist, but a reminder that relationships require more than commitment papers and future promises. They require empathy, communication, and emotional presence. Without those elements, even the strongest connections can fracture. As the season continues, fans will be watching closely to see what comes next. Will Anthony reflect on his role in the breakdown and fight to rebuild the relationship? Will Manon find clarity and strength during her time away? Or will this chapter mark the end of their journey together? One thing is certain, this decision has changed everything. This exclusive moment cements Manon's storyline as one of the most emotionally charged arcs of the season. Whether viewers agree with her choice or not, her courage to step away from a situation that no longer felt healthy has sparked important conversations about self-worth, boundaries, and emotional survival within relationships. And as always, 90 Day Fiancé proves once again that love under pressure reveals the deepest truths. After Manon leaves Anthony's home, the emotional weight of her decision lingers heavily in the air. The door closes, but the conflict does not. Anthony remains standing in silence, replaying every argument, every misunderstood conversation, and every moment where he may have dismissed Manon's feelings without realizing the damage it caused. For the first time, he is forced to confront the possibility that love alone was never enough to sustain their relationship. Meanwhile, Manon's journey back to her parents' house is filled with mixed emotions. Relief washes over her as she approaches a familiar and safe environment, but that relief is tangled with sadness and guilt. She never wanted things to end this way. In her mind, leaving Anthony was not an act of rejection, but a desperate attempt to regain control over her emotional well-being. She admits that she feels like she lost herself while trying to adapt to a relationship that demanded constant compromise from her side. When Manon arrives at her parents' home, the atmosphere immediately shifts. Surrounded by family, she finally allows herself to break down. Tears flow freely as she explains the emotional toll the relationship has taken on her. Her parents listen carefully, offering comfort rather than judgment. They express concern over how withdrawn and anxious she has become, noting that she no longer seemed like the confident and hopeful person she once was. Their support reinforces Manon's belief that she made the right decision, at least for now. Back at his place, Anthony reaches out to friends and family, searching for reassurance and validation. Some sympathize with him, acknowledging how difficult it is to love someone who feels emotionally distant. Others challenge him, suggesting that he may have prioritized control and practicality over emotional connection. These conversations begin to plant seeds of self-reflection, forcing Anthony to question whether his idea of commitment unintentionally pushed Manon away. As days pass, the distance between them grows louder than their past arguments. Text messages become shorter and less frequent. Phone calls feel awkward and forced, filled with long pauses and unfinished thoughts. Both struggle to articulate what they truly want, caught between hope and resignation. Manon admits that time away has given her clarity, but also intensified her fear that returning might lead to the same unresolved cycle. The show captures these moments with striking honesty, highlighting the emotional isolation that often follows separation. Anthony is shown sitting alone in the apartment they once shared, surrounded by reminders of Manon's presence. Every corner of the space feels emptier, amplifying his regret. He begins to recognize how often he dismissed emotional conversations as unnecessary drama, not realizing that those conversations were Manon's way of asking for connection. Manon, on the other hand, slowly begins to rediscover herself. She spends time reflecting, journaling, and reconnecting with old interests that were sidelined during the relationship. While the pain remains, there is also a sense of empowerment growing within her. She starts to understand that choosing herself does not mean she failed at love, it means she respected her limits. Viewers watching this unfolding drama are drawn into the emotional complexity of the situation. Social media reactions intensify as fans debate whether separation is the wake-up call Anthony needs or the final nail in the coffin of their relationship. Some believe distance will force growth and maturity, while others argue that too much damage has already been done. The uncertainty keeps audiences deeply invested, eager to see whether reconciliation is even possible. The narrative of Manon and Anthony becomes a mirror for many real-life relationships, especially those tested by relocation, cultural adaptation, and emotional misalignment. 90 Day Fiancé has always explored the idea that love across borders comes with unique challenges, but this storyline emphasizes that emotional understanding is just as important as visas and logistics. Without it, resentment quietly builds until one partner can no longer carry the weight. As the episode draws toward its close, Anthony considers making a grand gesture to prove his commitment. However, he hesitates, realizing that words and promises may no longer be enough. What Manon needs is change, not persuasion. This realization marks a critical turning point for him, one that could either lead to growth or deepen the divide between them. Manon, aware that Anthony may try to win her back, wrestles with her own doubts. She questions whether love can truly transform behavior or whether patterns inevitably repeat themselves. Her parents encourage her to prioritize stability and emotional safety over fear of being alone. Their advice strengthens her resolve to move forward cautiously, regardless of what the future holds. Part 2 ends on an emotional cliffhanger, with both Manon and Anthony standing at crossroads shaped by vulnerability, regret, and unresolved love. The question remains unanswered. Will this separation become the foundation for a healthier relationship, or will it mark the moment when two people finally accept that love is not always meant to last? As the separation stretches on, the silence between Manon and Anthony becomes impossible to ignore. What once felt like temporary space now begins to resemble emotional distance that may not be easily crossed again. Both are forced to confront truths they had long avoided, and the reality of their situation starts to settle in with uncomfortable clarity. This is no longer just about a disagreement or a misunderstanding, it is about whether their relationship can survive fundamental differences in emotional needs and communication styles. Anthony finally decides that waiting in uncertainty is no longer an option. He reaches out to Manon, asking to meet face to face. His message is not defensive or demanding, but quiet and honest. He admits that the time apart has forced him to see how emotionally unavailable he may have been, and how often he mistook providing structure for providing love. Manon hesitates before agreeing to meet, knowing that this conversation could either reopen wounds or bring closure. When they finally sit down together, the atmosphere is heavy with unresolved emotion. There is no immediate argument, no raised voices. Instead, there is caution. Manon listens as Anthony speaks, noticing a change in his tone. He acknowledges that he often minimized her feelings, labeling them as overreactions rather than valid concerns. For the first time, he admits that he did not fully understand the emotional sacrifices she made by leaving her familiar world behind. Manon responds with honesty of her own. She explains that what hurt the most was not the arguments themselves, but the loneliness she felt while standing right next to him. She describes moments when she needed comfort but felt dismissed, when she needed reassurance but felt like an inconvenience. Her words are calm but firm, reflecting someone who has already processed much of her pain. Anthony listens without interrupting, realizing that this may be his last chance to truly hear her. The conversation turns to the future, and that is where uncertainty takes center stage. Anthony asks whether she believes they can fix what is broken. Manon does not answer immediately. She admits that love still exists, but love alone cannot erase patterns that caused her to lose herself. She tells him that any possibility of reconciliation would require consistent emotional effort, not just promises made in moments of fear. This moment becomes a defining one for Anthony. He realizes that saving the relationship would mean fundamentally changing how he shows up emotionally, not just temporarily but permanently. The idea is both sobering and intimidating. For the first time, he questions whether he is capable of meeting Manon's needs without losing his own sense of identity. The show captures these moments with raw authenticity, allowing the silence between their words to speak volumes. Viewers can feel the tension, the lingering affection, and the quiet grief of what may never be the same again. It becomes clear that even if they choose to stay together, the relationship will not return to what it once was. Too much has been said, and too much has been felt. After the meeting, Manon returns to her parents' home with a heavy heart but a clearer mind. She reflects on how much she has grown during the separation, recognizing her strength in setting boundaries and demanding emotional respect. While she is not ready to make a final decision, she knows she will never accept feeling invisible again. This realization marks a powerful shift in her journey. Anthony, left alone once more, begins to grapple with the deeper implications of change. He starts exploring therapy, not as a gesture to win Manon back, but as a way to understand himself better. The process forces him to confront long-standing habits of emotional avoidance and control. For the first time, he begins to see how his upbringing and past relationships shaped the way he expresses love. Fans watching this evolution respond with renewed intensity. Some praise Anthony for finally taking accountability, while others remain skeptical, questioning whether meaningful change can occur under pressure. Manon supporters applaud her for refusing to settle for less than emotional fulfillment, seeing her as a symbol of self-respect within the franchise. Part 3 closes with both individuals standing on separate paths, connected by history but uncertain about their future. The possibility of reconciliation remains, but it is no longer the only outcome. Growth, independence, and emotional clarity have become equally valid endings. As the season progresses, viewers are left to wonder whether love can adapt when faced with uncomfortable truths, or whether some relationships exist only to teach lessons rather than last forever.